So welcome to episode 5 of The Professor and the Idiot. This is the post-Christmas edition. We're recording this 2 days after Christmas, 1 day after Boxing Day for all you UK nationals.
I hope there's people from the UK listening.
If not now, soon.
Yes. For this recording, I think me and Nick are both fatter than we were the last episode.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing. Temporarily. We'll lose it.
Yep. Soon I'll cut out all the extra carbs.
Oh, it's my lifelong battle. This is going to be a shorter episode, am I correct? Just a little.
It'll be a real episode, but probably a shorter episode. You never know. You might be surprised.
Okay.
What's on your mind, Dalton?
Well, obviously, if you're watching any mainstream news, or I guess even non-mainstream news, government shutdown, controversy. I have been interested in the border issue for a while. I find both sides interesting, and I do like how I just saw you call somebody out or call an article out on Twitter. I think it was a Tucker Carlson thing of how top Democratic leaders don't want open borders like Trump claims. So just the whole idea of borders and policy and actual walls is pretty fascinating. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Absolutely. Happy to talk about it. So my guess is that as a libertarian, you'd be more in the direction of open borders and want to let the market sort it out. Am I wrong about that?
Well, that's where I'm conflicted. I guess my main issue with the open borders thing is the child sex trafficking horrors. I don't know how prevalent that is, but I know it is happening. And also, and I was actually thinking about this before we started recording, of very libertarian on a lot of issues. So I'm like conflicted of, I think drugs should be legalized or at the very least decriminalized, because I think a grown human being should be able to put in their body what they want. But I also wish heroin and meth didn't exist. And I don't want it coming across the border. And if you have open borders and everything goes, let the market out, that stuff's going to come across the border. So I'm kind of conflicted with this issue.
I'm with you on the legalization or decriminalization of drugs. I do think now that marijuana is legal in many places, we need a more robust regulatory regime that's should be in place. There are some signs of negative consequences of marijuana legalization, more vehicular fatalities, for instance. So I'm all for legalization, but would like to see more regulation, better control over what goes into edibles and vapables, labeling, probably a ban on marijuana advertising for the same reason there was a ban on tobacco advertising.
So should there be a ban on alcohol advertising?
Probably not. I mean, I think there are many controls over how you can advertise it. I don't see a problem there.
Okay, that's interesting. You think that there should be a ban on marijuana ads?
I'm just conscious of the fact for some people, marijuana is going to be a problem and they're going to smoke themselves into psychosis. But with alcohol, only a small minority of users are problem users.
I feel like it's the same way for marijuana, though.
Right. I agree with you. I guess this position of mine does sound a little schizophrenic. So I think marijuana should be available, but just not promoted.
Interesting. I feel, I don't know. I mean, the libertarian in me says, nah, that's bullshit, free market, all that stuff. But I guess I see what you're saying as that, like, there's a consequence to every action. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
As great as legalization will be, I believe it will happen nationwide. There's consequences to freedom. And when we have freedom, bad things will happen. So even if something has a net good effect, there will be consequences for some people.
I agree, but the net effect is ultimately good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the border.
Okay.
I certainly agree that no one wants to see child sex trafficking. I've seen no estimates on its prevalence as a problem, nor have I seen any evidence that the government isn't vigilant in policing it in this country. So I think that's something of a red herring to any discussion of immigration. It should be kept.
So it's not tied together.
No,
Is that what you're saying?
I don't think so. I don't think that has to be it. Should be a part of immigration. Any discussion about immigration. I find the idea that Democrats want open borders just infuriating on a couple levels. First of all, that's never been true. Second, as soon as you say open borders, any reasonable negotiation about what our immigration policy should be has been foreclosed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
That's
Well, I've seen quite a few videos of Clinton, Obama, and I think Hillary. A lot of right-wing people love to play old clips of them giving speeches that, it's a lot more professional, but it sounds somewhat similar to what Trump is saying when he's strong borders. And so I'm totally with you on that's never been the stance of Democrats. I mean, the Democratic leaders of the country have been, from the clips that I've seen, sounds pretty fair on border policy.
Yes, that's always been the policy and always will be the policy. Republicans, what they do is they find some very, very minor person, some person of no consequence, saying something about no borders, and then they somehow make it seem like that's the Democratic policy.
Why do you think, I mean, I guess I get it, but I'd like to hear your take on it. Why do you think this was such a big issue for Trump?
A wall is about the most easily understood political position. It's easy to say, drop a wall there. Everyone understands what that means. It's an easy way for him to rally his base. Go back a few years to consider the recent history of Republican politics. After the 2011 election, Republican leaders held an autopsy to figure out why they lost the presidency to Obama. And they concluded that they had been too hard on immigrants with Mitt Romney's talk of self-deportation. It became a party position to work towards bipartisan immigration reform. And that started to happen with Marco Rubio, among others, in the lead. Then in 2014, the House Majority Leader, Eric Cantor, a Virginia congressman, lost his primary. And he lost it to a guy who campaigned on controlling immigration. He said that Eric Cantor was too pro-immigrant, and that scared a lot of Republicans. Still, they were backing a more traditional, accommodating line until Trump found that his base wanted to hear tough talk about immigration, and a wall sounds like tough talk.
Yeah. Do you think that just taps into like people's tribalistic tendencies of, we got to protect our shit, so those other people don't take our shit? So it's just very like base level type of thinking.
Yep. Trump's base is old and white and threatened by change. And immigration, people talking different languages, represents change.
But don't we have a fence? Like, isn't there some sort of? Well, no, I guess I've seen videos where the border is kind of there's basically no barrier. But I've seen other pictures where some of the border does have like a big fence.
Yeah, it's over 1,000 miles long. Part of it is covered by the Rio Grande River in Texas. Part of it is covered by a fence, and part of it is currently unfenced.
Okay. The one thing that drives me nuts when immigration and southern border comes up is I never, and even, I guess from my perspective, even from the Democratic side, and I'm not fully tapped into politics, I never hear anybody talking about making it easier for people to become citizens and therefore discouraging people to come here illegally. To me, that's like the thing I always think of is like, well, why don't, I mean, most people coming here, I think, would prefer to be citizens, so
Yes.
why not make it easier for them to be citizens?
I think that used to be part of the discussion, but the focus has shifted rightward, has shifted anti-immigration. So certainly that was part of the discussion in the 80s under Ronald Reagan, where there was a large amnesty for the undocumented immigrants already in this country, but the discussion has just shifted away from that and towards the question of walls and border security.
Because, I mean, I think it goes without saying that people coming here illegally are typically low income, a low income class of people. So it's like becoming a citizen, doing it the right way. Like a lot of people like to say, it's like, well, it's so costly, and a lot of people are desperate. They want work, they want opportunity now.
Yep.
And for people to come into a country legally, risk going to jail, crossing a desert, a lot of bad things can happen. I mean, these people are pretty desperate.
Many of them.
Yeah.
Although it's important to keep in mind that the majority of undocumented immigrants are not here because they jumped the border. They're here because they overstayed their visas.
Yeah, and that's one reason why I wanted to cover the subject, because I've seen in the past you comment on or repost some pretty eye-opening statistics on illegal immigration that I think a lot of uneducated people would be surprised to find out. And that is one thing I've heard a bunch, that everybody thinks it's these hordes of people jumping the border, but it's, for the most part, it's just people coming here and just staying longer than they were supposed to.
Yep. The undocumented immigration from Mexico has also declined a lot in the last 10 years. And the most likely reason for that is simply a plummeting birth rate in Mexico. In the 1960s, the Mexican birth rate was very high, over 7 children a family. Now it's down. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
holy shit.
Well, that is characteristic of a lot of developing world countries, but now it's only slightly higher fertility than the U.S. at about 2.3 kids per family. And as that's fallen, there's simply less people to come north over the border.
So when people talk about overpopulation, is it kind of like that's not going to be a factor here in the future, because we're actually going to need people to have more kids?
I mean, certainly in the United States, childbirth is just about at replacement levels. But generally talk of overpopulation is bullshit. The rate of population growth in the world has slowed a lot. We've never run out or been at the verge of running out of the food, energy, and other things we need to feed and clothe and house people.
Okay.
Yeah, so talk of overpopulation is just a red herring. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. Is Mexico's economy and how they're developing also a big factor to how much people want to come to America? Is Mexico getting better and better as far as their development and opportunity for their people?
Yep. It still, of course, lags far behind the United States, but they've come a long way, just as most developing world economies have.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wish Trump and other, I don't know how much Democrats are talking about this, I'm sure they are. I wish there was more talk of like, hey, instead of focusing so much on keeping them out, let's help that country, because they're our neighbors, to bring themselves up so that they don't feel so desperate to come here. It's like, instead of, let's try and help them out to make their country better So they have more choice in if they want to come here versus if they have
Yep.
to come here because they have
Yep.
no other option.
Yep. I mean, that's an American interest. People were busy and Trump was busy antagonizing Mexico by talking about building the wall and Mexicans being rapists and making Mexico pay for the wall and all that. Need to remember that the United States is vitally dependent upon Mexican intelligence for stopping terrorism. If a terrorist boards a plane in Mexico, we want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And so currently there are programs of intelligence sharing in place in Mexico and Canada for just that kind of situation. We certainly want to keep Mexican capacities there strong.
Yeah, you don't want to piss off your neighbor, even
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
like a single person living next door. Like you want your neighbor to be doing well, so they don't try and come and take what you got. And also, it's good to be around people that are doing good. So
Yep.
I feel like the same logic applies to countries. You
Yep.
know, if I want to hear a president say, "Hey, I want to help these immigrants coming here," but also I'm sure they want to stay for the most part. They want to stay in their home countries where their family and friends are at. Let's try and help make their country awesome.
Right. It's more important that we make our country awesome, but it's important too that we help our neighbors. And a stronger Mexico creates more markets for our products, and then they produce more stuff that we can buy.
Yeah.
Trade certainly in generally a big proponent of trade.
Yeah.
So what would the wall cost? I read a bunch of estimates. Trump has given estimates all over the board. Other estimates I've seen range from $12 billion, which was produced by the outgoing House Speaker Paul Ryan, to over $60 billion, which was produced by Democrats in the Senate. I think probably just to pick something in the middle, let's go for the $25 billion estimate that the Washington Post put out. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, the libertarian in me goes, fuck that. Less government spending. And also the policing of the wall. That's a big thing, too. Yeah. It's like, okay, you build this giant-ass wall. It costs billions of dollars. Well, if you want this border security a lot of people are talking about, you need a lot of people, a lot of equipment, a lot of training to supervise this thousand-mile long wall.
Yep.
And the libertarian in me goes, that's a lot of government spending.
Any wall in the world, people are going to burrow under, bore through, or climb over.
Yeah, it just doesn't... That's what I thought when it was brought up. I was like, I just don't know if that's going to be cost effective. I don't know if that's really worth it.
So I can think of many reasons why we shouldn't have the wall. One is what it will cost and how ineffective it is. A wall is 12th century technology.
Yeah, it's very old school.
Let's have border guards and sensors and drones.
Seriously.
A second is the symbolism of the wall. I'm old enough to remember when Ronald Reagan said to Mikhail Gorbachev in one of history's great moments, tear down this wall.
Yeah.
The wall keeps people in. It doesn't.
Yeah. The conspiracy theorist in me goes, yeah, they're going to use the wall now to keep people out. But when the shit goes down, they're going to use it to keep us in.
Yeah. Among the people who may be kept in by the wall are Mexican workers who come here to work on seasonal harvests. So immigrants may come to work, but they may not be able to get out because of the wall.
Yeah. There's a lot of great people coming here from Mexico. I'm in the construction industry. I work alongside a lot of, I assume Mexican, obviously could be from other countries, a lot of immigrants, and they bust their ass, and they work really hard, and they take pride in their work.
Yep.
And that's as American as it gets.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about some of the common concerns when it comes to immigration. And one is they take our jobs.
but they also buy lots of stuff.
Yep.
Create restaurants, create businesses, invent things, and create a lot of jobs.
Exactly.
Right?
So you make a good point. A lot of the discussion of immigration only looks at the supply part of the equation, doesn't look at the demand part. And you're absolutely right. Indeed, immigrants have a higher rate of filing for patents, of inventing shit, than do natives.
It makes sense. I mean, when maybe some fellow listeners will kind of get this, Joey Diaz, a comedian, friend of Joe Rogan, he talks about immigrant mentality. And I think that's a real thing. He was an immigrant from Cuba, and there is an extra bit of hustle that a lot of immigrants have that a lot of some native American-born people, I was about to say Native Americans, but American-born people don't have.
I wouldn't go so far as to say we don't have it, but it certainly takes some initiative, some cojones, to travel to another country, especially to a country where you want a paper.
Yeah.
And so certainly there's some selection, some sample selection along those lines. Let's talk about the debate over whether they take jobs. And I'll give you a little background. In 1980, Fidel Castro decided to expel a lot of people from Cuba, including some of his jails, his mental hospitals, and many other people who he just decided were undesirable. And what this meant was all of a sudden, America, and especially Miami, had 100,000 more people. This is known as the Mariel Boat Lift. And so the Mariel Boat Lift has been the basis of a lot of economic research over whether immigrants take jobs, because you have as close as you can get to a naturally occurring experiment. Suddenly, out of nowhere, just come a bunch of people. So what happens to the job market?
Tell me.
So there's been one academic whose research suggests that based on the Mariel Boat Lift, that immigrants take jobs, and that's Jorge Borjas at Harvard. And still he showed that the losses were only temporary and only affected American workers without high school educations. But other people looking at the same data and other data, most persuasively David Card at UC Berkeley, have shown no such effect. So I don't find Jorge Borjas that persuasive. There may have been factors unique to Cuba and the Mariel Boat Lift. Right, so I think science has said as much as they can say about using that as an experiment. So I think the evidence that immigrants take jobs is slim. Even if they do, even if it costs natives to lose a little wages, the effects are only temporary. And so I don't think there's a good case there. Other evidence is the fact that immigrants, and particularly undocumented immigrants, seem to be working in different sectors of the economy than natives. They come here and they do certain kinds of jobs like agricultural work in slaughterhouses and meat processing facilities. So if they're working in different kinds of jobs, there's not going to be direct competition.
Yeah, like on a lot of job sites I'm on, I'd probably say half of the workers are Hispanic. I don't see tons of white people lining up pissed off that they didn't get to do construction because these immigrants took their jobs. I mean, I think the jobs were just available and they took them. So
I don't think that's a case to adopt the Trumpist attitude towards immigration. I'm sure you've also seen these data. Immigrants also, on average, commit fewer crimes than natives.
Yeah, that's very surprising. A lot of people would not think that.
Think about who comes here to this country. The people who are coming looking for jobs, looking for work. That just strikes me as a population that's less inherently criminal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in this country would be shocked to hear that. that doesn't seem to be something that is talked about enough.
No, especially the Trumpists love to play up individual cases of immigrants, undocumented immigrants who go on crime sprees or commit murder in this country. And of course it happens.
Yeah.
But and it's tragic when it happens.
Yeah.
But that doesn't represent the broader trend of less criminality among
Yeah.
immigrants.
Well, if you use that mentality for anything, you would make everything illegal, just like alcohol or marijuana, and be like, oh, look, somebody got too high, too drunk, and killed somebody in a car. Well, therefore, we just can't have it.
Yeah, that's not sound reasoning, and that's not a good basis for making policy.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think of where to go from here.
I know where I might want to go.
Okay.
What changes would you like to see in our immigration policy?
Well, I guess the biggest question I have is, and I'm sure we do, maybe we do, is there a limit on how many people a year we let into this country? Like, I run this hypothetical scenario in my head, like, what if 10 million people from China just wanted to come over, and then 500,000 from Mexico, and 1 million people from here? If 30 million people said we want to come to America and be citizens, right, is that possible?
Look at Germany in the last few years, where a country of about 90 million people took over 1 million refugees from Syria. In my opinion, that's too many. That's too many just for one country to absorb comfortably. And Germany should have used some of its economic clout to encourage other European countries to take immigrants. But I don't see that happening, and that's certainly not in accordance with current immigration law, which says that immigrants basically come from one of several streams. There is the diversity lottery, which is just like it sounds like, which is a fixed number of people a year. There are family members of immigrants in this country, and there are refugees. If I had my way, I would take the diversity lottery and end it, and instead change it into a skill-based system.
Okay.
That's what Canada does, for instance.
So there's like a certain amount of people let in based on their skill level.
Yeah.
So 20,000 people of this skill level, 50,000 people of this skill level. Okay.
Why not recruit people who are going to highly skilled people who are going to contribute to the American economy? Now, there already is that to some extent. There are, I think it's H-1B visas that are visas just to work at a particular company. So companies can import people on that basis for skilled labor, but then they're bound to the company. And so I think a better system would be just an allotment for skilled foreign workers.
Okay, I see that. So I guess a lot of people might say, well, how can you turn away people that are in need wanting to come here?
We wouldn't, because that's separate from the immigrants we take as refugees.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like the people that literally have no place to go, the downtrodden, we would always welcome them because they're so desperate.
Well, it's not, the refugee program is not the downtrodden. It's people who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing persecution.
Okay, maybe I got maybe I don't understand the word downtrodden. That's basically what I meant. Like people who are fleeing, like you said.
Yeah, fleeing.
And, okay.
I think that's good for America as a whole. It certainly fosters a positive image of America abroad. Yeah,
that's what America was built on.
I agree.
I'm pulling up the quote on the Statue of Liberty. It says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest lost to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door."
Yeah.
That's as American as it gets, you know?
Yep. Now, we can't take everybody because we have to look out for those who are already here.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. But I certainly think there's room for, I'd like to reform the American immigration policy in that direction. Kill the diversity lottery, keep the family members and the refugees, take more skilled workers.
Okay. What about the, I forget what it's called, but where two people come here illegally or they come here legally but then become illegal, then they have a kid?
Oh, right.
Anchor babies? Is that what
Yeah,
it's called?
that's, I think, sort of a pejorative, ugly term for it. You mean birthright citizenship is what?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
What do I think about that? How are we going to change that in a way that's humane? Among other
Yeah,
things, it's in the Constitution, too. If you're born on American soil, you're an American.
yeah. So what are you going to do? Kick out a citizen or separate a child from their parents?
Neither.
Both
Neither.
of which are fucked up.
Yeah, neither. Right. Which is why there should be some provision for the dreamers to stay.
Oh, okay. Now, yeah, with the DACA thing,
Yeah,
do you want to talk about that a little bit? I feel
certainly.
like that's hasn't come up lately.
No, they're in administrative limbo where they haven't been kicked out, but they haven't, the promise to let them stay hasn't been extended either. When Congress wouldn't act on immigration reform, Obama made a unilateral and some have said unconstitutional decision just to let the dreamers stay. And this was people who were brought to America as children, so they knew no other country and had grown up here and hadn't committed any serious crimes. And so, of course, those people should stay. It would be inhumane to deport them to countries they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird thing too of like a lot of people deporting a lot of people. It's like America is basically my home. If you send me back to my quote unquote home country, it's like I don't even they wouldn't even know where to start, you know.
Yep, they may not speak the language. Yeah, that'd be fucked up. Not deporting the dreamers, protecting them is something that has wide bipartisan support.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And so Trump canceled the program, yet hasn't acted to do anything. So they're in limbo, essentially. They're here, but without a firm promise that they'll be allowed to stay. And that's millions and millions of people.
Yeah. Oh, man, that would. It's like, what are you gonna do, Trump? Like, just send send the whole army to round up people?
Yep.
You know, it's
Yep.
like, it's like that's not what we're all about.
Nope. I mean, there are over 10 million people in this country illegally. If we deport all of them, that's going to be Nazi Germany shit. That's going to be armies in the streets and dogs and trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a
that's-
libertarian, that just raises my hackles.
Yeah. God, as a humanitarian, that raises my hackles.
Yeah, that would just be terrible.
Yeah. All right.
So what do you think? Okay, maybe this is ignorance on my part. What is the stance of the top Democrats on immigration today? Because I only hear Trump's side of the wall, build the wall, build the wall, and that type of stuff. But I'm not hearing the counter argument other than we don't want the wall from the
Right.
Democrats. And that might just be ignorance on my part.
Okay.
So what is the stance for top Democrats?
I think it's continue to have a strong, controlled border, but to have a path to citizenship for people like the Dreamers, for people who are already here and have been here for a while.
Okay, so basically business as usual with reform. You know,
Yeah.
nothing too
with
drastic.
modest reform. Now, there may be more sophisticated proposals that I don't know about. It's just because I haven't been paying attention because Trump has shifted the terms of the debate so much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe he feels a duty to fulfill his campaign promises.
Yep.
Like, I feel, I don't know, part of me is like, just give it up, dude. Like, you're kind of, reform. Like, it's okay to say, hey, this is what my thoughts were when I was campaigning, but talking to my experts, my cabinet, other politicians, I think this might be the better route. Like, I think that would help him more than trying to be this badass that he thinks will help keep his voters. Like it's almost like he feels like if I don't pull this off, then all the people who voted for me won't vote for me again.
That's just what happened. In the run-up to the government shutdown, Trump for a moment appeared to relent and not insist on border funding or funding for the wall, and he got torn a new asshole by Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the media people that are supposed to be on his side basically talked a bunch of shit.
Yep,
So
yep.
like, oh, damn it, now I gotta go all in.
Yep. Ann Coulter's viewing Trump as a failure for not living up to his promises. After all, he came down the steps in Trump Tower and said, Mexicans are rapists. I'm your anti-immigration president.
Well, I mean, no politician has ever fulfilled all their campaign promises. No. It's like, what do you want, a dictator?
Anyhow, so I'm glad the Democrats are holding out and hope they continue to do so.
Yeah, all the libertarian people I follow, they're like, good, shut down the government. I know there's a lot of consequences to it, so.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, people aren't getting paid over Christmas.
Yeah, that's the main one that I saw. But they will be reimbursed, right? Isn't that part of the...
They have been usually.
Okay, but the trouble is, well, but I don't have the money right now.
Yeah, I mean, services aren't working. It costs, I mean, you have to restart a huge machinery that it costs money.
Yeah. How do you think this is going to play out?
I think Trump isn't going to get his wall.
Yeah.
And certainly a majority of people are blaming Trump for the shutdown because in that weird televised debate he had with Chuck Schumer and Pelosi, he said, this is my shutdown.
Yeah, he's taking credit for it.
Yeah, right. And so people are blaming him for it. And so I think they will, well, I don't know. I'm not good on predictions. I think he'll relent, but who knows, because he's gotten so much pressure from the Ann Coulters and the Rush Limbaughs.
Why do you think the Democrats, since they're not the open border people, a lot of people portray them as, why do you think they're so resistant on the wall? I don't think the wall is effective, but why don't they just go, all right, let them have it, whatever? What do you think it's more than? Do you think it's about more than just the wall?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure if I have a great answer. I think it's about the money. I think it's about the symbolism of having a wall in your country. I think it's also about defying Trump.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's all those things. The wall definitely. There's just such a negative, I don't know, feel to it. He tweeted that picture about the wall, and it's like that's zoomed in, and the top of the wall is like spikes.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh man, like, do you know how awesome Mexicans are and how much they've like contributed to our culture and everything, science, and all that stuff. It's
the
like,
Washington Post ran a really funny article where they used the scale of that car in the picture to estimate what a wall like that would cost, what the steel would cost. They also pointed out that the car, if you zoom in on the picture, the car is not to scale and has oval-shaped tires.
It's a shitty design, Trump. You got to be better.
There's a really weird thread that Rand Paul tweeted a few days ago, which showed the picture of the wall with a
T-Rex or something.
With a cat.
Oh, a cat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I thought that was hilarious. I didn't read his whole thread, but I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
He played off the Seinfeld thing. And was like, listen, I'm just gonna say it. You suck. This is bullshit. I thought that was funny. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the wall, Nick?
Yeah, a couple things. The first, that's more reasons not to build the wall, is all the legal questions. Some of those lands are privately owned lands. Some are Indian reservations. As a libertarian, I assume the words eminent domain would strike terror into your heart.
Any term that relates to government taking over private property frightens me.
And with good reason. So what that means is that any proposal to build a wall through those lands is going to be stuck in court and in lawsuits for a long time. The other point I'd like to add is this. If Trump and his Republican allies in Congress are so enthusiastic about the wall, why not convince America? Why not hold hearings in which they bring border guards and security specialists and people who make drones and have them testify and convince the American people that we need the wall? But so far, I haven't seen any efforts along those lines.
Now, when you say convince the American people, do you think there should be or the possibility of a national vote on the wall?
Our government doesn't work that way. We don't take national plebiscites. We don't vote on issues nationally. But our government certainly is responsive to citizens' pressure. So if a bunch of people approached their congressman and demanded a wall, then maybe it would happen. I don't see that. But more important, I don't see the government trying to convince the people. All we do is have Trump ranting about how important the wall is. And so there could be a systematic effort to convince the rest of us of why we need that wall.
Okay, yeah, the for me as a libertarian type person, the private property aspect is very troublesome.
Yeah, as well it should be. So anyhow, I just don't see them trying to convince us. All I hear is a lot of yelling about open borders. Whenever someone says open borders, the discussion ends.
Yeah, Trump likes to make it a very polarizing type position. If you're not for the wall and totally on board with Trump, then you must be the complete opposite.
Yeah, then you must hate America. Hate our freedoms.
MAGA. Well, I think it's been a good episode.
Yep, I agree.
Informative. I think we basically agree. I mean, I don't...
Yep.
Just be sensible about it.
Yep. All right, you got anything you want to recommend this week?
Do you have one? Why don't you go first, if you do?
Fuck. I'm too full of Christmas candy.
Okay, I will recommend this. It's an album. I'm sure... I feel like listening to whole albums is like going away.
I agree.
So, listen to the album Masters of Reality by Black Sabbath. That is one of the greatest albums ever made, hands down. There is not 1 second on that album that is bullshit.
I totally agree. It's a great album. I have it on vinyl.
It's dark.
Awesome. It's awesome.
It's dark. It's dirty. It's just heavy. It's wonderful. Please listen to that, people.
I totally agree. Okay, I can totally get behind that recommendation. It's a good one, Dalton.
Sweet.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everyone. If you like what you heard, don't forget to go to Apple Podcasts and give us some good ratings so that others can find us. And if you don't like what you heard, fuck off to the place you came.
That is true. But if you do like it, repost it. Say, hey, there's a cool podcast. Try and spread the word. Regular dudes trying to answer some questions and ask some questions and just have some good conversation.
Yep. Look out, Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. Here we come.
We're coming.
All right. Thanks, everyone.